Hey guys, today we're talking about a sort of different topic, and let's see what we have here on Restream. All right, good. So, so I forgot to change the actual topic of the webinar today, but today what we're talking about is COVID-19, and not sure if you can hear me. All right, good. All right, so. So today we're talking about a patient I had with COVID-19, and basically the patient started off with some vomiting right here, and this situation where this young guy is having vomiting, and he was tested for COVID-19 and he was negative, and so we were thinking, well, what else is going on? What happened is this guy had sort of a fever for a week, and thereafter he had some vomiting and some fever, and it made me think about, is there a place for the blood-brain barrier? In the blood-brain barrier, and we'll go into that a little bit later, is there a blood-brain barrier association with COVID-19? And this blood-brain barrier association with COVID-19, turns out that other people are thinking about it also. And there's this article by Alessandro Pizzini is showing this in the blood-brain barrier, and is actually talking about exactly what I was speaking about when I sort of Googled, okay, blood-brain barrier COVID-19, and let's see, and blood brain um, COVID-19, and let's say brain barrier. All right, this is right here, and this is really the line that I wanted to read out, is that you have multiple lines of evidence suggest that other human coronaviruses can use both the hematogenous route and neuronal dissemination to penetrate the CNS. So we won't go into definitions of simple definitions like what is the CNS right now. We'll just say it's a central nervous system, and we'll leave it there. And but I'll talk directly about there is some thought process about it going throughout, it's spreading throughout the body via the bloodstream and then enters the brain, crossing the blood-brain barrier, whereas retrograde viral dissemination towards the CNS occurs when a virus infects neurons in the periphery and uses it as transport back inside. And so one thought process I was thinking about this is, does it actually affect those chemoreceptors, which actually cause vomiting to actually take place? And that's exactly what takes place in COVID-19. Well, the question is still hasn't been answered, but there's a couple of papers that have been discussed regarding this. And this is done by DeForgis et al. In viruses, and Talbot et al. About viruses penetrating the blood-brain barrier, which you can learn all about. It's all in PubMed here. All right, so then I went to answer the public, and I was like, okay, what thought processes are out there for COVID in the brain, and is COVID brain a thing? Is something that comes up, and is COVID brain damage permanent? And these two things are pretty interesting. We'll talk about, is COVID brain a thing? Sounds like COVID brain damage we can talk about also, but we'll talk about COVID brain being a thing. But then also, when I'm talking about blood-brain barrier, I don't know why, but it always comes up as this scene from Deadpool, and this is the one where this comes up, and it's a pretty graphic movie, but here you go. Here's that scene again, just so you know, and there it is. All right, so this scene always comes in, the blood-brain barrier, and I've all whenever I think and I saw that scene, I was like, that really doesn't belong in his brain. You need to stop that. All right, so that's that, and so going on to the next video, we know that the blood-brain barrier can be disrupted in things like brain tumors. And here's the Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi video. And of course, here's a tumor that's in this person's brain. We don't know male or female, but a neurosurgeon is going to go in and take that thing out. And this causes, this brain tumor can cause this vasogenic edema, and that vasogenic edema is actually what disrupts the actual blood-brain barrier, and then allows things into the brain that shouldn't be allowed into the brain. And so, so it seems plausible that that's there. So it's just something that I was thinking about, and I thought that this probably would be a good idea to speak about. And then in another situation, we know the blood-brain barrier. Can also be affected, which is in examples of stroke. And here, since it's National Stroke Week, I think in India at least, you have this lady who is having this stroke, and she said that she was having the stroke at like 6:30 or 6:43. That is her time of onset. She should probably get TPA if she's within 4.5 hours, which is a whole nother video, which we'll post down in the link below. And she's also feeling some left arm symptoms, and she said that look at her tongue and all this. But in a few hours, not immediately, she's going to have some issues where the blood-brain barrier actually can break down as far as strokes are concerned. So moving on, so then that brings me to the next video, which is the patient was put on Augmentin. Now, he had a fever last week, and he had he had a fever, and he had vomiting. And so then it made me go back to this video, this original video in 2009 when I started making these videos. And this talks about Augmentin side effects. And if you look, it's got nausea, vomiting, and abdominal discomfort, flatulence, headache, and vomiting, diarrhea. But what about, okay, diarrhea? Yes. Okay, so he had fever, he had headache, he had fever, he had headache, and he had vomiting. And so, but the vomiting started to take place after he was given the Augmentin for the fever, and then he also had diarrhea. And so he's got diarrhea, and then he mentioned he has black stools. So that's even getting even more interesting. So black stools. So amoxicillin. I looked up. Is there anything that would cause somebody to have black stools? And then there's this drug-induced thrombocytopenia, and that goes on. And of course, our patient has a low thrombocytopenia, but it's you get these numbers, and you're like, oh wow, low thrombocytopenia. But the guy's like, nah, not really. Probably has had it for a couple of years. This thrombocytopenia. So, but there's one case report out there that says thrombocytopenia that can be caused by this. So, yeah, okay, fine. So then I looked up, all right, so what about renal failure? So it sounds like his creatinine is elevated around 1.8, maybe 2, uh, pretty high. And so maybe going into some renal failure type picture. And it turns out that Augmentin can cause some renal problems as well. And so one thing is that this guy goes into a hospital, which is sort of up north from Mayapur, and comes back down, and bingo, he goes into the hospital. And this is one of my favorite things. So my hospital, where I work at, Mayapur Community Hospital, especially in India, does not charge patients before they come in. Patient comes in, you see the patient, and then the patient leaves, and you send them a bill. When you go to another hospital in India, they'll ask you to pay up front, give me a down payment, and go from there. So it's a really interesting thought process. I don't want to talk too much about it, but here is a clip of Mayapur Community Hospital. Here is my plug. This is my friend. This is Acharya Ratna. He's a heroic guy here. This is Janaki. He's a heroic guy here. I met all these guys as this was a hospital that was very influential in my life. And this is Bhishma, who is also one of my friends, and he actually works for us, and he's one of the students we help. And I didn't actually know that this guy is in this video because this guy being in this video is very interesting because he works for me, and he did say that he volunteered before, but now I know why he's our cameraman. He's very good at what he does. All right, so now let's see. So moving on, so those are sort of the things that I wanted to talk to, and sort of talk to, what are the things that were up against as far as working in a community with a hospital that doesn't have all the things that we need, and trying to get more funding for this hospital. So please click the link below. We're trying to help as many people as possible in this community. And here, of course, is Jay Patekaswamy, who is a guy who's had a stroke, and he has built this hospital and this community single-handedly with a whole bunch of help from his friends. So that's basically it. So this was my patient sort of for today that I wanted to discuss. Some take-home points is number one is, what's the blood-brain barrier? What's it do? And I had a video talking to the exact blood-brain barrier, but I think I clicked off on it. And it was a nice animated video, but we can see if we can go there right now. So we'll go here, blood-brain barrier. I think we're going to have to see a commercial in this video, but let's see. And I think that that's not the one. And of course, the video that I want is not going to come up. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, no, that was the one above that. It was the one above that. And this is actually a pretty cool video, but we're going to have to wait 5 seconds, of course. Here. All right. So let's see. Right here is where it talks about the blood-brain barrier. And I love this video because it shows a coffee cup going through. Oh, coffee is going through the blood-brain barrier. Coffee and wine is going through the blood-brain barrier, but red blood cells are staying here. And so it's sort of showing that, you know, the blood-brain barrier is permeable to things. And here's the actual barrier itself. And we'll put a link to this video down below. It's from Stat. They have 12K subscribers. They're really good at these animated videos. Okay, so that's basically it. That's talking to the blood-brain barrier. You can learn more about it. And the evidence is out as far as COVID-19 causing problems in the blood-brain barrier, but it's something that I thought was really interesting.